Imagine for a moment the way a fog lifts from a mountain valley when the sun rises. At first the mist is thick and impenetrable, obscuring everything, but as the sunlight grows warmer, the fog begins to thin, revealing the beauty of the landscape that was there all along. In much the same way, when we give someone distance, we allow the fog of familiarity to lift. It's not that the connection was absent, it was simply hidden, blurred by proximity, routine, and perhaps even expectation. When you're constantly in someone's life through calls, messages, or physical presence, you can become like the air they breathe. Necessary, vital even, but invisible and unnoticed. It's only when that air shifts, when a gentle breeze stirs, or a pause creates stillness, that people start to realize how much they had depended on it. In stepping back, you're not withdrawing your value, you're simply offering the space for it to be seen. This is a gift we rarely think to give others, but it's one of the most profound gestures we can offer. Think about how water behaves when held in your hands. The tighter you grip it, the more it slips through your fingers as though resisting the force of your grasp. But if you relax your hands, letting the water rest in your palm, it stays. People are much the same. When we cling to someone through our words, our actions, or even our energy, we inadvertently create tension. It's not malicious, it's simply human nature to recoil from what feels like pressure. But when you release that grip, when you take a step back, you allow them to exist freely. In that freedom, they can better see the shape of what you are, the role you've played in their life, and the quiet joy of your presence. I once spoke to someone who described a relationship that felt suffocating, not because there was any malice, but because the closeness had become a kind of static. There was no space to think, no space to feel. And when they finally stepped back from that connection, they felt an odd mix of sadness and relief. But what happened over time was fascinating. In the quiet, in the space created by distance, they began to hear their own thoughts more clearly. And more importantly, they began to recognize the other person not as a fixture, but as a person, a beautiful, complex, imperfect person they wanted to return to, not because they were expected to, but because they were expected to, but because they chose to. This is the paradox of distance. It's not an act of severance, but an act of clarity. It creates a mirror in which others can see themselves and their relationship with you more clearly. They see not just what you offered, but how they felt in your presence. Was there joy? Was there calm? Did you challenge them in ways that helped them grow? These realizations can only surface when the fog has lifted. And here's the irony: by giving someone distance, you're not abandoning them. You're simply stepping far enough back that they can find their way to you again, if that's what's meant to happen. In the quiet of absence, something remarkable happens. People begin to miss not just your physical presence, but the essence of who you are. They start to see the value you brought into their lives in ways they couldn't when you were always there. It's not manipulation, it's the natural rhythm of human connection. The way we all come to appreciate the sunlight after enduring a cloudy day. So when you give distance, know that it's not a loss, but a profound act of trust in the connection you've built, and trust in the other person's ability to recognize its value. Sometimes the clearest vision comes only when we step back far enough to see the whole picture. Let that space speak louder than words ever could, and trust that what's real will find its way back to you. It's a curious thing, isn't it? How people seem to be drawn to authenticity, like moths to a flame, yet so many of us spend our lives hiding behind masks, afraid that who we truly are might not be enough. But when we give someone distance, when we stop striving to be what we think they want, something remarkable begins to happen. That effort, the constant reaching, explaining, or proving falls away, and what's left is the real you. Not the version you've tailored or polished, but the unfiltered essence of who you are. And that, my friends, is magnetic. Think of a tree standing in a field. It doesn't strain to grow or bend itself to fit anyone's expectations. It simply is. Strong, rooted and unwavering, it reaches toward the sky, not out of ambition, but out of its nature. And yet that simple presence is what draws life to it, the birds, the shade seekers, the wandering souls who pause beneath its branches. The tree doesn't need to chase anyone or call out for attention. Its authenticity, its quiet strength, speaks for itself. And so it is with us when we stop trying so hard to hold on to others. When you give someone distance, you're sending a subtle but powerful message, I trust, that I am enough. You're not withdrawing out of anger or spite, but stepping back with grace, allowing the relationship to breathe. This creates a space where they can begin to see you clearly, not as someone trying to fit into their life, but as someone who stands firmly in their own. And it's in that space, free from the noise of neediness or expectation, that true connection can arise. I once met a man who told me a story about a friend he had been chasing for years. He said he always felt the need to reach out first to keep the conversation going, as if he were afraid that the moment he stopped, the friendship would disappear. One day, tired of the one-sided effort, he decided to step back. At first he was filled with doubt, worried that his silence would be taken as indifference. But then something unexpected happened. In the quiet of his absence, his friend began to notice the value of his presence. They reached out not because they were prompted to, but because they wanted to. The friendship became stronger, more balanced, and the man realized it was never his job to hold everything together. His authenticity was enough. Authenticity is not about perfection. It's not about being flawless or always having the right words. It's about being real, even when that means being vulnerable. People are drawn to that. They're drawn to the rawness of someone who isn't afraid to say, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." Because in a world filled with pretense, authenticity feels like a breath of fresh air. It's rare and it's precious, and it has a way of bringing people back, not because they're compelled, but because they're inspired. There's a beauty in not needing to force connections. When you give distance, you're giving others the freedom to choose you not out of obligation, but because they feel the pull of something genuine. And that pull is far more powerful than any argument or effort could ever be. It's a silent invitation that says, "Come closer if you wish, but know that I will remain as I am, whole and unshaken." So let go of the idea that you need to prove your worth. Let go of the notion that you must chase anyone to keep them in your life. Stand in the truth of who you are and trust that those who are meant to be, they will come to you not because you demanded it, but because they felt it. Authenticity doesn't chase, it simply exists, and in its existence it draws others in. When you step away from someone's life, it's not as though the connection you shared vanishes into thin air. Instead, it lingers like an echo in a vast canyon. The words, the laughter, the shared silences, all of it continues to resonate in the spaces you've left behind. And it's in this resonance, this echo, that something remarkable happens. People begin to feel in your absence the weight of your presence, and you see, every interaction leaves an imprint. It's like walking on wet sand at the edge of the ocean. Each step you take creates a mark, a memory. When the waves pull back, those impressions don't disappear, they remain, etched into the fabric of the shore. In relationships, it's no different. When you give someone distance, the moments you shared, the energy you brought, don't fade away. They remain, growing louder in the quiet you leave behind. Consider how we often fill our lives with noise. Conversations, distractions, the endless flow of daily routines, it all creates a kind of static. In that noise, it's easy to lose sight of the subtleties, the quiet joys that only become apparent things slow down. Your presence, too, can become part of that static something felt but not fully appreciated. But when you step back, when the noise recedes, the echo of your presence becomes clearer. What they once overlooked begins to shine through the quiet. I remember speaking with a woman who had ended a friendship that had grown strained. She said she'd spent years trying to hold on, pouring her energy into keeping the connection alive. But nothing changed. Eventually, exhausted, she let go not out of anger, but out of a quiet understanding that it was time to step back. At first she felt a deep emptiness, as though she had walked away from something irreplaceable. But as time passed, something unexpected occurred. The friend reached out, not with guilt or obligation, but with a newfound appreciation. "I didn't realize what I had in you until you weren't there," they said. It wasn't her absence that brought them back, it was the echo of all she had been in their life. This is the beauty of distance. It allows people to hear the echoes they've been too distracted to notice. It's not about manipulation or strategy, it's about trusting that the connection you've built is strong enough to endure a pause. When you step back, you're creating a space where they can feel what they've lost, but more importantly, what they still have the chance to regain. Think about music for a moment. What gives a melody its depth isn't just the notes, it's the spaces between them, the pauses that allow the sound to breathe. Relationships, too, thrive in this interplay of connection and space. When you're always there, always filling the air with your presence, it can feel overwhelming, like a song without rest. But when you step back, you create a pause, a moment for them to reflect, to miss you, and to realize the value of your presence. As a distance isn't the end of connection, it's an invitation to reflect on it. In the space you leave, people have the opportunity to understand not just who you are, but how you've made them feel. Maybe it's the comfort of your kindness, the warmth of your laughter, or the quiet strength you carried. Whatever it is, it echoes. And as they hear it, they begin to see you not as a fleeting presence, but as someone whose impact lingers, shaping their life in ways they might not have seen before. So, remember, the connections that matter will endure, not because you fought to keep them, but because they resonate in the hearts of those who truly value them. And in the quiet of your absence, those echoes will speak louder than any words ever could. Trust the echo, and trust its power to bring them back, not through force, but through the undeniable pull of what was always real. It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? The harder we try to control a situation, the more elusive control becomes. Relationships are no different. When we hold on too tightly, when we try to dictate how others should feel or act, we create resistance. But when we release that grip, when we let go of our need to control, something unexpected happens, the dynamic begins to shift, and the energy between you flows more naturally. Giving distance in its own way is an act of trust, not just in them, but in the strength of the bond you share. Imagine a butterfly resting on your hand. If you clutch at it, even with the best of intentions, you risk crushing its delicate wings. But if you keep your hand open, the butterfly may linger, feeling the safety of your gentle presence. People are not so different. When we impose our will, even subtly, we unwittingly push them away. Yet when we let go of that need to control the outcome, we create space for them to return willingly, drawn not by pressure but by the authenticity of the connection. Letting go is not about indifference, it's about releasing expectations. So often we tie our happiness to the actions of others. We think, if they would only see things my way, if they would just come closer, then I would feel at peace. But this is an illusion, a trap we set for ourselves. True peace doesn't come from controlling someone else's journey. It comes from accepting that their path may differ from ours, and that's okay. There's a story of a farmer whose son ran away from home after an argument. The father, rather than chasing after him, did something surprising. He stayed where he was tending to the farm as he always had. Neighbors questioned his calm demeanor, asking why he wasn't out searching for his boy. But the father simply smiled and said, "The door to my home is always open. He knows the way back when he's ready." Sure enough, the son returned not because he was forced to, but because the unwavering openness of his father's love drew him back. It was the absence of control, the absence of pressure, that made space for the son to find his way on his own terms. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring, in fact. It often means the opposite. It's an act of profound respect for yourself and for them. By stepping back, you are saying, "I trust you to navigate your path, and I trust myself to navigate mine." This trust is powerful because it shifts the energy. Instead of creating tension, it fosters a sense of freedom, and freedom is where true connection thrives. When you give someone distance, you allow them to feel the pull of their own heart rather than the tug of your insistence. It's as though you're stepping out of the way so they can see the relationship clearly without the fog of expectation clouding their view. And in that clarity, they can rediscover what drew them to you in the first place. Our relationships flourish when they are rooted in choice, not obligation. By letting go of control, you're creating a dynamic where the bond between you becomes a matter of genuine connection, not something forced or manufactured. And this, my friends, is what allows the relationship to grow stronger. It's not about manipulating outcomes or bending them to your will. It's about trusting that the energy you share, when given space to breathe, will guide them back to you if the connection is true. So let go not out of defeat, but out of love. Release the need to control, and in doing so, you will find that what's meant to stay will find its way back not because you forced it, but because it was always meant to be. When you give someone distance, something intriguing happens. You create a space not just between you and them, but within them a space where reflection begins to stir. In that stillness, they are no longer surrounded by the immediate comfort of your presence, the reassurance of your availability, or the ease of shared moments. Instead, they are left with themselves and with the echoes of what you brought into their life. It is in this space, this pause, that the alchemy of appreciation takes root. Think about how often we take things for granted simply because they are always there. The sun rises every morning, so we rarely pause to marvel at its beauty. The breath fills our lungs without effort, yet we seldom notice its life-giving rhythm. Presence, when constant, has a way of blending into the background. But the moment it's gone, even if temporarily something shifts, we start to notice its absence, to feel the gap it leaves behind. And in that gap, something extraordinary happens. We begin to appreciate what we had. When you step back from someone, you are not abandoning them. You are giving them the opportunity to see you, to truly see you, without the noise of everyday interactions obscuring their view. Absence has a strange way of sharpening perspective. It reminds people of the value you brought, the joy you shared, and the energy you carried. And this isn't because you demanded their attention, but because in the stillness your presence becomes undeniable. I once met a man who had been in a relationship for years, but it had grown strained. He spoke of feeling invisible, as though his partner no longer truly noticed him. After much inner conflict, he decided to take a step back, not out of anger, but to reclaim his own space and allow his partner to reflect. At first there was silence, but then slowly something shifted. His partner began to reach out, not because they were guilted into it, but because the distance revealed something they had overlooked: the quiet, steady presence that had always been there, providing support, love, and understanding. It wasn't absence that brought them closer, it was the clarity absence provided. You see, appreciation isn't something you can force. It has to arise naturally from within. By giving someone space, you are allowing them to come to their own realization. You are inviting them to reflect, to remember, and to reconnect not because you insisted on it, but because they feel drawn to it. And that kind of connection, born out of genuine appreciation, is far more meaningful than anything coerced. This is not about playing games or withdrawing as a strategy. It's about trusting the natural rhythm of human connection. When you step back, you're not punishing them, you're allowing them the freedom to feel, to reflect, and to choose. And in that choice lies the authenticity of their return. Think of it like a garden. You can't force a flower to bloom by pulling at its petals. What you can do is create the right conditions, sunlight, water, and space for it to grow on its own. Relationships are no different. By stepping back, you're creating the space for the other person to realize what they value in you and to choose, freely and fully, to nurture that connection. So when you give someone distance, know this: you are not disappearing. You are creating an opportunity for clarity, for reflection, and ultimately for deeper connection. If they return, it will not be out of obligation or habit, but out of a true understanding of what you mean to them, and that is worth far more than anything you could ever demand. When someone returns after you've given them distance, it is not merely about the physical space or the time apart. It is about the subtle shift in energy in the atmosphere between you. Distance allows for a kind of emotional recalibration, not only for them, but also for you. It is an opportunity for both sides to reassess, to grow, and to understand the connection in a way that was not possible when you were entangled in the immediacy of each other's presence. Consider what happens when you step back from a painting. Up close, you see the brushstrokes, the imperfections, and the details that, while significant, can obscure the overall image. But as you take a step back, the details begin to blend into a harmonious whole. The painting reveals itself for what it truly is: a complete work of art. Similarly, when you give someone space, you allow them to step back from the relationship and see it in its entirety, to see you in a way they may have forgotten amidst the everyday chaos of life. This time apart gives rise to clarity. They can begin to distinguish what truly matters from what was merely noise. Perhaps they start to notice the depth of your kindness, the way your laughter lingers in their mind, or the steady comfort of your presence. These are not things they could have fully appreciated while caught in the closeness of the moment. But with space, these qualities rise to the surface, as undeniable as the sun breaking through a foggy morning. But it is not only their perspective that shifts, yours does too. Distance offers you the chance to reconnect with yourself, to rediscover your own rhythm, your own needs, and your own desires. In stepping back, you're not just waiting for them to come to a realization, you're coming to realizations of your own. Perhaps you see where you have been overextending yourself, trying too hard to fill spaces that were never yours to fill. Or perhaps you find a renewed sense of confidence, a deeper trust in your own worth, unbound by their immediate validation. This self-awareness transforms the energy of the relationship, whether or not they choose to return. When they do come back, it is with a renewed sense of intention. They return not out of habit or obligation, but because they truly see you with fresh eyes, and you, having reconnected with your own sense of self, meet them not with desperation or need, but with openness and choice. This mutual clarity changes everything. The connection is no longer a tug of war between expectation and resistance. It becomes a dance of mutual understanding, respect, and authentic presence. It's important to recognize that their return is not a guarantee. When you give someone distance, you are also releasing your attachment to the outcome. Their journey may take them in a different direction, and that is part of life's flow. But if they do return, it is a testament to the strength of the bond you share and to the space you created for that bond to breathe, to grow, and to transform. So, when they come back, it is not merely a resumption of what was, it is the beginning of something new. A connection that has been through the fire of distance and reflection is a connection that holds the potential for even greater depth, understanding, and resonance. And whether they return or not, the distance you gave them and yourself has already done its work. It has cleared the air, clarified the heart, and opened the door to a more authentic way of being, together or apart. The beauty of stepping back is that it allows the bond to evolve naturally. And when they return, it is not because they were pulled back, but because they chose to step forward. And that, my friends, is the kind of connection that is worth everything,